Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I just want to test how everything's gonna sound here, okay? Hello, 1, 2, 3 again. Hello, 1, 2, 3 again. Okay. I need to make sure that it doesn't go and do some way too much echo. Hold up. I should just always make sure that I do it in my phone rather than the. Hello, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think I'm gonna start the music. I don't know if maybe I should choose. Okay. Hold up. Let me just do something. Hello, 1, 2, 3. Testing. I want to see that. I feel it's. I feel it's way too loud still. Hold up. What about now? Why does it? God damn it! Why does it? Okay, I feel that sounds much better. Okay, right. I'll leave it there. All right. The one thing that I would say I don't like is that I notice that whenever I speak, the volume of my voice seems to also no. Whenever I speak, the volume of the background music also seems to increase as well. I don't know. I mean, I'm way too amateur, and I've been already live for way too long. So, all right, really quickly. Just oh no, that's not the right. That's not the right one. There we go. Okay, everything should be fine. Okay, here's the thing. I don't. Okay, from everything that we've seen of Digimon Storytime Stranger, I do feel that there is some criticism that is kind of guaranteed. Okay, it's not that I'm basically saying, "Oh, the game's gonna be shit," or this isn't to shit on the game. This isn't to basically, you know, be a bit of negative Nancy, if that's what people say. This is just me basically voicing some minor concerns that I have about the game, especially when compared to the previous game, which is of course Digimon Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory. For those who don't know, as well, by the way, Digimon Cyber Sleuth was actually the original game, and then Hacker's Memory was basically a DLC. Then, and also really quickly, I will also say this: Cyber Sleuth was actually made for what's it called? For PS Vita originally. However, because and also it was made for Japan only at the time. However, it was actually because of the West finding out about this game and realizing, holy shit, this is actually a good game. They kicked up enough of a fuss for Bandai to be like, you know what? Maybe we should actually bring this game into the West. And of course, they made a bunch of money, and they also and because they and I think they made Cyber Sleuth first, then made the extension slash DLC Hacker's Memory, and then after making these two, they then ported them into PC for the West, and everything's history at that point. Now, as I said, this isn't to basically shit on Time Stranger, because again, it's a game that hasn't even come out yet. So I don't have much to say beyond what we've seen still, what we've seen already from the trailers. But I do think there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad, and there are a lot of people focusing only on the good. And I do feel that as someone who generally cares for this franchise and the games and everything else, I feel like it needs to be said. What there's things that need to be said, and I made this Twitter thread like a long time ago at this point. Honestly, I'll see. But in short, first of all, the main issue that I'm having for now is mainly just the visuals with the UI and the UX in general. So for those who don't know what I mean with UI and UX, UI, I know that this might be, I do need to say what's the difference because some people do not know it. But UI refers specifically to all the user interface. So it refers to basically all these elements. So everything that's basically all the elements that are basically usually on top of the game and for the players to interact with directly. And that's usually all that's UI. However, I do feel that as well they've done some things that I feel that UX is also going to be hindered, in my opinion. And what is UX? Well, UX refers to user experience. And you must be like, what's user experience? Like, what's the difference? Well, it's actually basically referring to specifically the experience of how it feels to actually play the game. So with that, I don't really just mean mechanics and the gameplay itself. I mean also, does it feel correct when you do specific actions? The game responds correctly to what you feel that it should respond. So per se, it goes so like uh, the most childish way to put it, I suppose, is if you press right, does the game do what you expect it to do, per se? So if you press a button, does the game behave the way that you expect it to do? So a good example of what I mean with UX would be, so for people who have played Digimon Next Order, you need to sometimes collect some resources. Well, not, it's not, you need to usually collect either items that are on the floor in the environment, or there are some resources that you can get them from very specific points. And there is a bit of an issue with Next Order, with which basically, if you press to collect something, there is so you press to collect something, that's one press, and then you have to press again to to confirm that you want to pick it up, and then you have to and then another pop-up comes up saying you picked it up, and then you have to press again. So that's 3 presses usually to collect a single thing, and that obviously feels quite a bit dumb in my opinion. And that kind of goes into UX. It feels like you're doing far too much for something that's way too simple. And the same go so basically as well, something with UX would be as well with how logical would be, for example, how logical and how nice does it feel to traverse the menus and, that are available in the HUD. And something that as well affects UX, and this is something that I had to say here, is basically comparing. That's why I'm also comparing Cybersloot with Time Stranger, is that, as I said, Cybersloot was made for handhelds, and Time Stranger was made for, as I say here, was made for TVs, monitors. It was made for modern day, for like big consoles, of course. And an issue that I bring up here is that a lot of these do tend to do a big mistake. You might be saying, what's that big mistake? Well, that big mistake is that they tend to basically think, a lot of developers tend to think, oh, this is a game for TVs and for TVs and for monitors. So of course they're gonna be making the all the UI tiny because it doesn't really matter because uh, they're gonna be in big screens. So there's so the letters can be as tiny as they can as you want them to be because they're gonna be big on the screen, and that's like because they're gonna be on the big screen, and that's like okay, makes sense why you would do it that way, but at the same time it doesn't really work, especially when you make it when you use a lot of really difficult font to read, um, and when you also combine it with bad shading and bad positioning of the of backgrounds that are going to be behind the text. So for example here, like I have it kind of small already from the layout on my stream. Would you Are you able to read most of this? Are you able to read this? Oh wait, you're not able to see what I'm pointing at. Do you? Oh my god. My bad. Sorry. Capture. Oh no. Oh no. Sorry. It doesn't seem to be able to capture my. No, it should say to. Ah, okay, never mind. Whoa, what happened? No. Yes, okay. Never mind. Hold up. Ah, there we go. Okay. So are you able to read this? Like, are you able to read what says right here? Because I can't. Well, to be honest, for me it's kind of smaller. But can you do it from your monitor if you're reading this from if you're viewing this from a monitor or from a TV? Can you do it on your phone? I mean, to be honest, that's kind of stretching it. But do you kind of get my point? It's just text is kind of very small and kind of hard to read. As well, another thing that I wanted to say in general, but I will kind of say this a bit uh, later. Like I would say, like see this. This is kind of much easier to read, and the design of this. I would say, okay, I'll say this now. I think that as well. If you look at this design compared to this feels like it's kind of lacking, and I understand what they're doing, and they have outright said it. Now I go a bit more in depth in a later tweet down the thread, but basically what it go into is that if you see right here, you can see like a sort of like phone thing right here. What it is that you're meant to be viewing it as if you as the player, if you as the character right here, you open up the thing and then you are kind of just viewing the information as if you are the as if you are your own character. And I understand, okay, makes sense, but I do feel that they could have worked this a bit better and even made it a bit more interesting. Like, for example, what if instead of watching the. Oh, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, for now, what I want to say is that I feel like the visuals for the UI and the HUD in general are far too. They're just far too lacking, in my opinion. They feel far too streamlined to the point that become far too simple, and that they need a bit more umph to them. I can see some interesting decisions. Like for example, in here, can you see that there's some like dots on the here, kind of marking out where the floor is? That's quite interesting. I like that. And you also see that, and as well, there's some really nice gameplay choices, in which you can actually see the Digivolution history of this Digimon that you have in, and that's also very interesting. It's really nice to see that, because it also implies that maybe the Digivolution history might also give some importance to how your Digimon will be strong in specific ways, right? I do hope so. Like, to be honest, I a gameplay mechanic that I've been having in mind would be that, for example, it would be kind of similar to how it is done in the TCG, in which you have some like evolution traits, kind of. How are they called? Sorry, I'm fairly new to the TCG, so if you are quite, if you're not a novice like me, then you might be pulling your hair out, being like, "What the fuck are you saying now?" Like in the TCG, for those who haven't played it yet, you can make your Digimon Digivolve, of course, and there are some traits on the cards that get passed over to the from the lower level Digimon to the higher level Digimon, and that's an idea that I felt like it could be so easily placed into the game, where basically if you go from per se, if you go from let's just go like if you go from Koromon to Agumon to Greymon to Metal Greymon, yada yada. Basically, the at least I would say, just to make it more easier. For example, a trait from Koromon could be passed over to Agumon, and then like a trait that specifically from Agumon is inherited into Greymon, and so on and so on. With how much down the line could this trait, like inheritance trait of be like, maybe you have a War Greymon with inheritance from Agumon, let's say, like that's how down the line it could go. And then if you digivolve back, then those traits go away. So if you go from Greymon from War Greymon, and then you digivolve back into Agumon, then the traits that you would have had from Metal Greymon and Greymon would be gone. Or maybe it could be retroactive, where basically if you digivolve to the highest possible evolutions, if you go into Metal Greymon, you could go you could no to if you go into War Greymon, you could get something back from that. Again, minor thing. I do feel that also as well, really cool that they actually made it more like, so instead of being a simple, oh, this is water based, so it can do damage to fire, and this is instead of being so like I guess Pokemon with the simple rock paper scissors, they do it more like, I guess, like Persona. I think Persona has a similar elemental resistance and resistances system like this one, in which basically you have, each creature in or each persona in Persona is resistant and weak to specific things, not because of not because, oh, this is a shadow type, so it's not just because it's, oh, this is a shadow type, so it's weak to light. No, it's because that one specifically is weak to light, and other things, and some other things. But then it's strong So it's not because of a specific typing that it is, it's because it's weak to those elements in general. That one thing is weak to that, but then like you understand what I mean. So individual resistances rather than elemental attribute resistances. Rock paper scissors, per se, right? I do think as well something that's clear that they're gonna do is that basically they're gonna make it so that something that I saw is that they're gonna make it so that skills, so like actually, so you have your special skill, and then you have attachment skills, which are gonna be all the things that were inherited from from Digivolution and and you got them from leveling up. Well, now it seems to be that they're gonna be only available if you buy them and then place them into your Digimon as an attachment. Which I don't know how to feel about that. It feels as well that equipment slots are gonna be standardized between all. Oh my god. They're gonna be standardized between all Digimon. I don't know how to feel about that. But again, we're gonna keep on going with. This was a bit of a massive tangent. Um, but yeah, again, going back to what I said, text is small. The design of the UI and HUD just feels very mute. It feels like it needs to be worked on a bit more, and the text is very hard to read. And it was most like and it was most likely done with the decision that, of course, it's um, it's a modern game, so it needs to be a bit more streamlined, and that it wants to be more what was the word, immersive. But I do feel that it kind of fails a bit on that department as well. For example, yeah, okay. Another thing that I do feel as well is that because they want to basically again go with the whole immersiveness thing. They've um, they've also clearly made it so that if you see here, this is what I was actually hold up. I know that I'm kind of going a bit, but if you see this between these two images, do you kind of already see what I'm talking about? Like one, not only the text is smaller, the background or the box on the text is really hard. It's like it's barely dark. It's more transparent. There's even some text on the top, which is the name of whoever it's talking. So here's this Pumpmon, uh, which apparently is he's talking about Rockmon. But but the whole thing is as well. If you see the background, it's so white already, so it started to. So already the issues that I'm talking about started to pile on, and basically, if you have a white background, and then you have some white letters on top of those white letters are going to be kind of hard to read. Even now, this is quite hard to read. Um, and if you see here, this is much nicer to read. I can like even from what I'm seeing right here, I can actually read what's been said. But in here, from my little viewer, I can barely tell what's the text, written. Again, there's some choices like why couldn't they just put some box, just a tiny bit of a smaller box right here to tell you who's talking, at least during the gameplay sections. Uh, because this box that's used here in Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory, this one's used for every single scene, um, talking to any other characters, etc., etc. I mean, it will be many of you will be like, "Why are you mentioning this?" Well, it's because again they want to make the game feel immersive. So you see right here, and I got this from. I should be able. Hold on. I should show that the I should actually give the yeah. So I don't know where this guy got the gameplay footage from, but I will. This is the gameplay where I got it from. So a lot of thanks to Okan24 for the 30-minute gameplay of Digimon Savage. Now, you see right here, this is a cutscene. This is gameplay. Now, what I mentioned again was that basically because it's gameplay, or because they want to make the game feel more immersive, they are deciding to use this type of box text for the cutscenes, and rather and the cutscenes rather than be the like sort of like visual novel style that they have from from Sabis Lucifer's approach. Instead of that, they're going for more full-on cutscenes that play on their own, and you can't, progress them by just, continuously pressing the next text button. Makes sense, or at least that seems the case to be the case from what I've been able to see. So of course this has been done for cohesiveness, because of course this looks okay and fine in this scene, and it doesn't distract too much from what they want to show in the scene. And in fact, I think I'm gonna go into the gameplay already. Like, hold on. So I think no, actually, okay. So from what I can see, yes. So that okay. See, I think that the game mostly goes on its, so it just continues on its own. Um, yeah, so the game continues on its own. You don't seem to be having to do as many presses to continue, but it seems that the way that they do it is, the the cutscene continues, and then it's kind of divided in small little sections, and those little sections stop, and then once they stop, they want you to press. I think that's how it's gonna kind of go. Maybe it's not. Oh, here we see a bit more of the UI again. It does seem kind of a bit far too streamlined. It does give a lot of information, but again, there's a lot of empty space that I feel that could have been easily used. Like, for example, all this. Why not make for example, what is with this? I don't know what's saying here. Well, beyond the fact that it's in Japanese, even though I can at least read a bit of it, but beyond that fact, like this is kind of hard to read. This is very small. I feel like this could easily be fixed. I do like one thing. It is clear that they wanted to make it so there's like a sort of like projection on the that is in front of the character or in front of the player character. Whilst I like the idea, and I like that they are going for the whole immersiveness. Like, can you see that this is all kind of a bit off kilt? Like this is clearly in a bit of a perspective. Um, but again, let's not go into another tangent. All that it is again, this is kind of hard to read, and even if I do feel that they could have easily just used a different text box or make it a bit more visible, at least during the gameplay. It makes sense that you don't want to cover the screen with a bunch of text boxes during cutscenes, but at the same time, I want to read and be able to read what you want me to read. So again, this is more of me just going in depth with what I mean with the design feeling quite empty. Like for example, this feels quite full. Like even here, they do something that you can see clearly. Like, for example, this looks really empty. Like for example, one thing that they've clearly done, and they've said it, is that now the whole functionality of the Digilab has been moved to you, and you can have it and just move around. So to you don't seem to need to actually go to the Digilab to uh, convert Digimon into evolve your Digimon or to get them out of the box. But at the same time, that's why as well they've made it so that the slots on the party that you can have has been reduced down to 6 rather than the like how many were they? Yeah, it was 11. Before you could have 11 Digimon in your party, but they now reduced it to 6, which does feel quite the reduction, especially because this means as well if you have if you have just 6 Digimons, then it means that if something would basically destroy the current 3 Digimon that you have in your basically what I'm saying is that this kind of has made the game kind of harder in a weird way by basically reducing the amount of Digimon that you can have in your overall party. There's more chances that all your Digimon might just be defeated. But again, going back to what I'm saying, like for example, look at this. This looks much more nicer in my opinion. This looks much more interesting. Like there's a bunch of little details, so you have a lot of information is readable. And then if you go into here, this is like it's so empty. Like all of this, couldn't you just put a bit something here? Make it like I like the font that they're using. At the same time, this looks in my opinion, this looks much nicer. Again, the font and the visuals that they're using, all of this looks nicer in my opinion. It's far more visually invested rather than this, which feels a little too dark. Far too like there's so much empty space. Feels like you're in a void. I understand, and I understand what they are going for. It's a sort of very scientific, like sci-fi type of details, but I do feel that they could have put more changes. They could have put more details to the actual design of it, but as well something. And for example, you see that everything's far more streamlined. This is so very linear, whilst here it's kind of a bit, everything's kind of bending a little bit. Here, it's kind of racing. Like there is something more than just simply, all the things being on a straight line. And I feel like this could have been a really good uh, choices. This could have been a really good design but I feel like it needed to be pushed a bit further again. Oh, and as well, if we go back, sorry, did say that as well. The navigation of everything seems to have been more or less kept the same. So if you see here, move Digimon, Digiball, load Digimon, Digiconvert, and return to date. You go here, setup. It seems to be the like you actually setting up your Digimon party of Digimon. Convert, Digivolution, load enhancements, return to data. So it's clear that the Digibank and all the things, all the functionalities again have been moved to you for you to have them. But at the same time, I feel like maybe some things could have been, like for example, Digivolution. I feel like it kind of doesn't need to have a tab on its own, or even convert. Like a bunch of these things could be all done in a single menu, and then you just kind of select a Digimon, and then you set, and then a smaller pop-out comes out for you to then select what you want to do with that Digimon. And it could be, or you could convert them, you can do return into data, I would say convert definitely needs its own menu. It makes sense because it's a functionality that's kind of its own. But I feel like, for example, setup, devolution, load enhancements, and return data. I mean, I don't know what they do, so maybe they do have a bit more of a reason for all these to be separate. But again, far too empty of a space. They could have easily put more things. But I do have an idea that could have, in my opinion, worked a bit better. But you will see. So again, let's go. So again, now let's go to the battle UI. And for the most part, it's been on the basis of it, been kept the same, but at the same time, it's been changed to such a point that I do feel that it has to be addressed. So again, we see here that it's been streamlined, and now, again, it's been they're using again the sort of like cross directional attacking system. You can just press to attack quickly, or you can just move to into skills, or move into guard, or move into items, or into change, yada yada. And then they've moved the they've moved the tab with the Digimon to the side, and also inadvertently made the line of how the timeline of the Digimon that are going to be attacking. They moved it here, or they've moved it kind of again. I do like that it's quite stylized, but as well they moved it a bit more up, which means that there are less Digimon showing on the timeline, which I do feel that it could hinder a bit gameplay. Like for example, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 slots that is showing. Whilst here, it's going down throughout the whole thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's quite ironic. Okay, so they who knows? Maybe that was done on purpose. But again, so you can see in in here you can see down to 6 moves. So from here I know that his from here I know how many times like from here I do get a lot of information, but from here, like at most I can see that the next moves or the next attacking enemy Digimon is going to be one of the two Muchomons. Like this feels like this might be a bit of nitpicking, but I do feel that this can feel this is gonna kind of hinder a bit gameplay for some people. Again, and as well again, I do feel like, for example, like I like the design. I feel like it could still be pushed a bit further, but again, text is really small. They've also done. Oh, actually, hold up. I was about to say something really dumb. Sorry, I was about to say something really dumb until I realized. Well, hold up, that doesn't make any sense anymore. Um, I was about to say how it is that oh, they're not. Because you can see the icon telling you if they are vaccine or what they're typing. The icon doesn't have any color, and that's because that no longer means anything because the resistances is now basically based on the Digimon itself rather than element-based decision. So of course, it's been oh sorry, I need to. Yes, I was about to say how oh they've even taken away the color, but it makes sense. They took away the color because it doesn't. It's no longer taking any actual. Like, it's not going to be used for gameplay anymore, so it makes sense. I do feel. So I do feel that again, if we compare the if we compare the two, one feels more stylized. You can see how stylized everything is. You have a lot of detail in, and it's using a lot of blue. I would say that with Digimon Cyber Sleuth, blue seems to be the main color, but in here, orange seems to be the main color. But again, it's not pushed through enough. They use way too much gray, in my opinion. Again, here, everything can be read like this, even from my small viewer of the stream that I have on OBS. I can more or less read that it says 4 physical attacks, 35 earth damage to 1, 30% chance of reducing target attack by 10%. It's a bit rough to read, but it's readable. Meanwhile, oh, hold up. Like, this is rough to read. Like, you cannot fucking read a single fucking thing. So, this is, like, there is no way I can read this. From the monitor, I can at least read it, or from the, like, to a degree, but it's kind of hard to read. And again, we do see as well some of the what I was saying. Yeah, so it's so weird. Why is there extra special skill slots? That kind of leads me to believe that maybe their special skill might actually be inheritable for each Digimon. Like, if that's possible, that could be really cool. Like, for example, like some phantom version of their past self can be used to attack with their past special skills. Which, if that's the case, that's really cool. It would be really cool if that's something that you would be able to do. But we'll see. Hmm. Oh, A, B. So it does. Oh, that's really nice. I do see as well some things. Like, for example, it's giving you some assistance. Wait. Come on, one. So I can. I suppose there are more. There are a lot of assist Digimon here on this gameplay section, because at least you should only be able to have 3 Digimon, which I suppose are these 3. Then these 2 are the assist Digimon, I suppose. But again, this is really hard to read. I feel like, again, like for example, this text is almost unreadable, even from where I'm standing on the big monitor that I have. And that's because they, like, why have they chosen to have no background? Again, why? It's really bizarre. I don't understand why. So if we go into the shop, now they've one good change. One good change that they made is that beyond that they changed. So again, yeah, beyond the fact that they changed it to be so that so that it's more streamlined on the UI. It's still they made it so that basically it feels more immersive, as they say, um, by making it so that, you know, I guess it feels more like you're talking to the, I guess the shop tender or the shop assistant. Again, more. I think in here. I think in here I'm just kind of restating that, yeah, everything feels kind of fairly too generic. Like it could easily be like, for example, I do like the you have the scan bar here, but again, I like the ideas they're going for. It's just they need to be pushed to like just a bit more. It's just using more iconography that will feel. If they use more iconography that's distinct to the game, it will make the game feel more unique. But in that, but in the choices that they've made, I feel like the game just feels a bit too bland with its visuals. Again, so here we have the player in this, and like again a lot of like if you can zoom in into the model and all that, I think that would be really cool. I do hope that as well. Something that they do is for you to be able to cycle through all the animations. That would be really nice if you're able to do that. Oh, and here with the Digifarm, I think this is kind of a small thing that I did want to say, but basically, so they've changed the Digifarm to, and they kind of simplified it to, instead of being small, like 5 small islands that can be enhanced as you go. They've made it so it's a huge, huge planet, basically, with small sections that can be changed. Oh, oh no, sorry, I didn't show it. Okay, small sections that can be changed. So each of these is basically its own slot where you can place an item, and it says place island and place item. So I suppose that the progress of this is going to be to implement more, or either more slots for the Digimon, because it's clear that you can only have here 30 Digimon maximum. There's only 492 slots available from what I can see for places. Again, I feel like they streamed. Honestly, in my opinion, this was a nice streamlining of the Digifarm, and it helps to make the Digimon this version of the Digifarm feel unique to this game, and adds more makes the game more customizable to each player. Plus, as well, from what I could see, that instead of having one single island have to be trained as a whole, they've made it so that basically you could place one thing and you could train one Digimon at a time. And I feel like that's going to be much better. But at the same time, that also is going to bring some issues with that. Basically, if people want to, like for example, I had a bunch of Digimon that I wanted to train a bunch of attack for them. So what I did was just put all of those Digimon in a single island and make them all train, make the island train, and now I have a bunch of Digimon train as a whole. Like I have a bunch of Digimon fully maxed out on their attack stat, and that. And to be honest, the streamline of it, I feel that as well. They wanted to make it feel more like each Digimon is their own entity in a sort of weird way. You'll see what I mean more with that. Not only as well with the additional animations that we're gonna go over as well. Oh, here's one big issue, and here's where I'm gonna start to actually go into some things, but we'll honestly get back to this. All I think is this: many people have been, praising how they've actually made the newer models look much nicer and have a little more detail and better resolution textures. But at the same time, it's clear that there's some that have been worked on a lot more, and there's some others that have been worked on far less. As you can see here, this looks pretty rough. Right here, the resolution on the feathers looks pretty bad. And not only that, if you see here, like you can clearly tell that the model of the feathers isn't actually modeled into the actual wing. There is no there's no feathers. There's just either texture mappings to give the illusion of feathers with the lighting, or there's or they're kind of just modeled slightly into the wing. But again, I do feel that this model could be improved upon, and I hope that it will be improved upon in the future once the game is released. Again, like you can see that the bolts here, they're not sticking out or anything. They're kind of clearly just stuck on as texture, which looks pretty rough in my opinion. It doesn't look good in my opinion. And there's a couple models, like for example, recently they've shown a Deltamon that they've had, and you can see that the eyes, again, they are not modeled. They are clearly, the eyes have clearly been basically stuck on, like they did with the previous, like they did previously in Cyber Sleuth, which, I mean, if you're gonna be doing that much work, I don't know. It does feel kind of a bit disheartening that they're clearly giving more love to other Digimon. Oh, and here's where I say, yeah, it feels generic. Like this feels like this. Honestly, this is from Power World, by the way, and it feels like it could easily go into Time Strangers. It's really generic, and it's just it could definitely use more work to feel more unique to itself. Again, it's very generic. They use a lot of white icons, but no actual graphics per se or illustrations. We can see here that they more or less did almost a similar thing with the text box, where it's just a very faint box for the background of the box, but it's mostly basically invisible, and the text is just basically slapped on top of that. Here's what I would say. This is a nice, a very good UI in my opinion. Like there's a lot of details in the background. they've put a lot of like it's streamlined, but they've put a lot of detail to it, and it feels much nicer, in my opinion. It feels more unique to this game. And again, I would say even for this for their own game that they've came out with, uh, which is how was it called? Digimon Survive. I would feel that this feels a bit more unique than the game that than Time Stranger. Like they even have the like weird like they even have like a floor showing for displaying the Digimon. It's weird, but yeah, this image kind of encapsulates all my feelings towards the UI. I think there we go. Here is what I was kind of thinking. We see a lot of again. They could have used a lot of this. You see these details around here. They could have used this type of details to use on the game. They could have used more orange and yellow, more of this kind of cyan color. They could have used the gears as the as it's clearly and more time iconography maybe. If well, but again, they have a lot of iconography and details they could have used, but they didn't. They chose to not use them because of the whole like, oh, we want to make the game feel to we want to make the game feel more immersive. So that's why, in my opinion, I thought that maybe instead of going for what they did, if they wanted to make the game feel more immersive, then I feel that instead, what if instead of going for what they did, they could have. Oh my bad. There we go. Okay. So instead, when you go into a menu, or if you have your character, oh shit, you have your character instead of the game kind of zooms in. You have your character. So it kind of goes into this sort of angle, right? Sorry, then you would have you have the like I suppose it's the Digivice here. And I know how to draw. Okay, I have a I have a I have a Twitter showing it that I can draw. Okay, it's just I don't draw in this type of way like on the go. But yeah, and then you have all of the UI elements kind of being shown as a sort of projection to the character. So I feel like, and because they kind of do that already. So if we go here, if we go back, if we actually go back, they already do that. You see this? This is your Digivice, but I feel like this could look much nicer if instead of being, being placed as a HUD on top of the game, it could have been more interesting if instead it was a HUD that was actually placed basically in front of the player itself, or in front of the in front of the in front of the character. And you have all of your information here, which would guarantee as well why it's so small as well. But it could be done a bit more nicer, you know. That's why as well. What if you notice, for a lot of things, they're kind of going from. So if you notice, they're kind of more or less kind of in perspective. I don't know how to say it, but it's clear like it's clear that they've been put to look like they are basically like, especially this image shows how it's clearly that this is not in a straight line. This is kind of a bit tilted, but it's so clearly because it's a sort of it's meant to be seen as a sort of HUD that's actually like in front of per se you as the character. But I feel that again this idea could have been brought much better if they actually did it or either like this or by making it more. Again, I liked that they showed the Digivice, but I think that they showed the Digivice. Why don't you just keep the Digivice there? And also, I think instead of zoom in, I feel like it would have looked much nicer if the game zoomed in. So instead of, you know, seeing seeing the character like over here, you know, kind of looking a bit weird. You know, like you're looking at your own back, I suppose, kind of. Like, it looks weird if you can see your own character right there. Do you think it would be much nicer if instead it, you know, it zoomed in per se and then shows you from the character's perspective? And they could easily do that. It wouldn't be too hard. It could be a really cool transition where basically the game kind of like, you know, you're playing the game and then you go, oh, I want to see something in the Digivice. So you press the Digivice button, and then in a very quick and smooth transition, the game kind of zooms in. The game kind of zooms in as you see that that the character's taking out the Digivice, and then you see it from the character's perspective that you've taken out the Digivice, and you're now already seeing the HUD with everything displayed for you to see and da da da. Do you think that could be much nicer? And then when you go out of it, uh, the HUD kind of goes away, or it all goes away really quickly and zooms out all smoothly. Like, I don't know. I feel that could be much nicer to go with the idea for an immersive gameplay. But at least that's my opinion. Okay. So we've more or less finished with that part of the rant, I suppose. Yeah. However, I do have a bit more to say. Okay. Now I think that as well we should just I should just stop with the Digilab music. It could drive some people mad. I've been here for like an hour, so all right. So an issue that I've been having as well with the game, or at least what we've seen from the game, is here we go. The animations. And many of you will be like, "What do you mean with the animations?" And it's that I feel like even though the animations have the models have been even though the models have been improved, I feel like the animations have not really been improved that much. I mean, if you will be like, well, what do you mean with that? Uh, well, that's what I mean. I feel like the animations are still quite stiff, and they could generally, like, for example, let's look at some of the animations. Well, I feel like the effects of some of the animations, this effect looks nice, but I don't know. I think it might be as well because of the Digimon's own design. That looks nice, but this one looks a bit weird. Ooh, that's not good. Bit some clip in there, but okay. Again, let's look at that animation again. Hold up. That looks quite stiff. That had some nice movement, I would say. Oh, as well, something that I've seen, they seem to have changed as well the effects and the design of some of the attacks, which many people were quite saddened that they changed Leilamon's attack. And this is what's weird. In the original, in Cyber Sleuth, she used what was it? I can't remember. But in Cyber Sleuth, she used her special attack was the one in which she shows the crown of lust, and then it shows a heart and does the whole thing. However, in here they changed it to look more like another attack. Like, here's the thing: she actually has, at least in other games, she's shown to have two attacks that kind of look the same. Which is one that's the one from Cyber Sleuth, and then she has this one which is like this cloud of thing of like poison that she shoots, which is what it is. But at the same time, like, for example, again, some some animations clearly look, in my opinion, look a bit too stiff. Especially that one. Oof, that Junimon attack felt far too stiff. In my opinion, it could have been worked on a bit more. Oh, but yeah, from what I can say, I feel like the animations for the game has been kind of not really improved. Oh, and let's go. Okay, hold up. As one another issue that I've kind of seen, okay, this one I know that this issue might seem a bit nitpicky. Oh, hold up. But here's the thing. Like, this is like the weird thing. Also, notice that there's a bit of clipping here. The the leg is clipping into the armor. But oh well. This was kind of issues that were already happening in Cyber Sleuth, but you you feel that it could have been fixed by now. But oh well. Okay. Do you kind of see already what I'm kind of having some issues with? So one. So first issue, when they do their special attack, it's they do the charge up animation. This, but in Digimon Cyber Sleuth, they didn't do that. They basically just went immediately into their special attack animation. Whilst for was here, they do the charge up animation, and then they do the special attack animation, which is like it feels like it's dragging a bit too much the time of the game. Funnily enough, in Cyber Sleuth, his mouth didn't actually open up, if I believe correctly. It didn't really correctly open up because the model wasn't actually made for the mouth to open up, which is kind of funny. As well, another minor issue that I have is that for is that they haven't made it so that the attacks don't connect in the special attacks. They're kind of just more or less happening in a void, and then the attack, which I feel like they could have made it so that the attack they actually land on the Digimon, or that the bullets actually travel into actually hitting the Digimon. But okay, the another, and this is kind of minor as well, somewhat nitpicky, but I think it's because they clearly want to change the game into feeling more of that sort of. Again, this is happening in Iliad. The whole game is now happening in somewhere called Iliad rather than the like usual digital server. So and this and Iliad is kind of more or less based in, and it's based mostly in Greek mythology, well, to a degree. Wait, no, it's kind of freaky. I don't think about it. Hold up. Iliad has the Olympus 12, which is basically like Greco-Roman, and they have the whole Yggdrasil thing. But Yggdrasil is from Vikings. Weird, but again, mm, to be honest, they do also have Yggdrasil is kind of like never mind. Um, but yeah, they want to. From what I can kind of surmise, they want to make the game feel more magical, I suppose, in that sort of way. So that instead of feeling digital, the way that the Digimon like vanish or disappear or whatever, they vanish in a sort of strangely magical way, which is reminiscent to how they disappear in um, in Digimon Survivor. Oh, and here's the oof. Hold up. Again, I feel like they could have easily made. To be honest, I would say in Digimon Hackers, in Digimon Hacker and Cyber Sleuth, the 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 amount of menus that you had to go over just to see that a bunch of Digimon evolved or went up in level was too many. So I do appreciate that they've condensed it, but at the same time, they could have made it look a bit more nicer, in my opinion. Oh, and here it shows, yeah. I don't like that the Digimon are kind of like way over here. Ah, never mind. There was nobody. I don't like that for like. Oh, that looked really bad. That looks so bad. Okay, I understand that if maybe they charge an attack, like then the attack kind of happens on top of the Digimon. Like, okay, fine. However, if they do a physical attack and it hits them from what? Nah, mate. You, they could have easily made it so that the Digimon basically has to run up to to or either like the Digimon run ups to their opponent, and then they they attack them, and then they run back to their place. That could have looked much nicer, but this is kind of feeling a bit more like even Pokemon at least moves the fucking Pokemon into the in front of the into each opponent. It does sometimes look a bit. It does kind of look a bit rough the way that they do it, but it would have been done much. It would have looked much nicer if they ran up to the Digimon and then hit them. This looks bad because at least in Savage Loot, they cut away. They cut. They used a lot of cuts and focusing onto each Digimon. So, for example, they would just do a focus onto the into the Gazimon. They will focus onto him that he's attacking, and then they will do a cut and focus onto Warmon to show, oh, he got hit. Like, they sell the illusion of the battle much better. This just looks bad, in my opinion. It looks really bad. Oh, again, something that I kind of don't like is they kind of went a bit overboard with the lighting effect, with the lighting, and it's clear that the real time shadows are a bit rough. Uh, but we'll see how the game actually comes out. Because with how light, like, look at this, the ground is so bright. It's far too bright, in my opinion. It's it makes it look more like at least with the placement of the shadows, it looks more like Agumon's kind of floating. Doesn't he? It just doesn't look good. And because of how bright the ground is, the effect of the effect on the special particle effects of the Gasimon basically being defeated, it's kind of barely visible. The same was with when, like, you can barely tell the particle effects. It's really rough. I do hope that they fix it or that they realize, yeah, this is something that has to be fixed. Like, the I feel that this or either it has to be fixed via the lighting system, which I highly doubt that they're gonna do that, or via bringing down a bit the maps, the on the textures, maybe. Again. Oh, and something that do you see that? So you can actually change. Okay, so I see why. Okay, since you no longer again, since you have at least just 6 Digimon in your party, since you only have 6 available Digimon in your party, the ones that are battling and 3 at the back. Again, what I was saying, it's gonna make the game a bit more difficult, but at the same time, they've clearly thought of that, and they made it so that if you change a Digimon, yeah, so you can change your Digimon, and then you're gonna still be able to have use that turn to attack. Instead, in Savage Sleuth, if you use the turn to attack, to change, or to use an item or whatever, that that would use up that turn. But in here, they changed it so that you can actually change to a Digimon and then attack with that Digimon. Fair. To be honest, that's a nice choice. So here again, now because everything's dark, the lighting effects kind of are actually very nice and they look really good. But if you have to make the whole environment dark so that they look good, then maybe you should bring down the light in other places. That's that should be a good idea to start with. But oh well. Like they've they've improved a lot in some places, especially some another thing that they've done is that if a Digimon seems to be or either in low in health or seems to or is affected by some like status effect, they will actually show it by changing a bit the animation. So it shows. Yeah, do you see the Tankmon? He's like he's kind of like you can see him that his animation's actually changed because he's affected by a status effect. Yeah, so he got so I suppose that he got shocked. You can see that he's kind of low. He's feeling quite under the weather from what you can see with his animation. Something similar happens with that with this XP1 as well. So I think the XP1 is attacked. Oh no, everyone's attacked. So yeah, from what you can see, the animations of mostly everyone seems to have changed. Oh well. So again, there's a lot of good things that I'm liking. There's a lot of really good idea. Oh, do you saw that? So it seems that if you're in a boss battle, items are, or at least in this boss battle, items seem to have been blocked out. So you cannot choose. You cannot use items during boss battles. That actually is really cool. Again, they're bringing the difficulty up in some other ways, whilst also bringing the other tools to allow you to not make the game feel so difficult and unfair. Oh, do you see that? So he has two skill, or does he? I don't know. Never mind, I got confused because of the Japanese text. It is just yes, special, special do skill. Yeah, yeah, and then is okay. Never mind. Um, let's see gameplay. So again, there's a lot of improvements. The Once from seeing as well, they decided to make the boss battles as well actually more engaged rather than just be a really tough motherfucker to beat. They add some interesting like boss faces. The boss does some interesting things. Like for example, from what I understood, if you you can be as you can show you were being blocked from using items previously, and as well if you attack this boss with electric um, attacks, they are completely nullified. They don't do anything. I think they can even heal him up. Oh well. But I think I'm gonna kind of leave it there. Oh, before I leave, hold up. Oh, here. Yes. So here's where we see more of that, what I was saying. So if it's not that visible, but here you have the Digivice right here. You can even see the hand of the character holding it, and then and then you have the like. If they made, in my opinion, if they made the UI look like this always, it would be much cooler. But it's clear that this is mainly only for the this is mainly only for the for choosing your first Digimon. Yeah. Oh well. Now, what else? Oh, as well, something that I wanted to say is that because they added some, I don't know who saw, but there was as well some like somebody saw that there was a new status effect that would be added, which was like charm or like a charm status effect or something like that. And that's clearly because they are adding Digimon who should be able to like use charm abilities. Like for example, Venusmon. That's basically the first one that's gonna be mostly the main user of that ability, because her whole point is that she doesn't really fight and that she charms enemies because she's literally fucking Venus. So yeah, here we see again. Here we see that we got the farm. There's you each place or each slot, as you can see. Yeah, so each of these is basically its own gym. You can put just one Digimon to do a single to train a single stat. And I think it even showed you can focus on each Digimon to feed them. You can place. Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, but yeah, in my opinion, really cool. This is another thing that I do feel it could be done correctly, or it could be okay. Let's read this a bit better. The, they added a skill tree, which could be done correctly or incorrectly. What do I mean with that? Well, skill trees are kind of a bit of a hit and a miss if you don't know how to make them correctly. Um, and I say this as a game designer. This is a bit of the game design kind of thing that you know my idea as a game designer, because many people always think, oh, a skill tree. You just as you progress along, then you just make it. But if it's too linear, then it could feel kind of pointless. I do feel that maybe it's not gonna like it's really connected, but there are some places like if you want to go down this one path, then you can really just invest on this, or you could just invest a lot more on this. It feels I like how connected it is, but at the same time, it could, because of how connected it is, it could be a bit too linear, maybe. And as well, sometimes skill trees. Again, if all that they do is just a simple like increase of like almost single digit increases, like for example, unlocks valor based bonds with your Digimon, allowing you to enhance brave, zealous, daring, reckless Digimon. So it's clear that some things, uh, I mean, if it's gonna give you outright skills that you can use, then that's better. But if they are mostly like increase in simple increases, then that's when a skill tree kind of becomes a bit boring. But yeah, um, again, honestly, this idea of I actually had this idea for a Digimon World game, like Digimon World One and Digimon Decode, which basically some places could only be traversed if you have if you had the correct Digimon. So some places would be only traversable if you have a flying Digimon or if you have a swimming Digimon. I guess this is a kind of a nice way to put to kind of implement that. If you have a Digimon that can get you over some places, which will actually, honestly, if they do it this way, then this will actually put some emphasis into actually being able to have, you know, instead of just having your Palmon and then digivolving that Palmon into a Rosemon, maybe you want to keep that Palmon into a being a Palmon, just to ensure that if that's the only Digimon that can do that, you know, you don't want to you don't take away basically your keys. So yeah. Oh, hold up. I'm just gonna mention this just because the moment that I remembered this, I it got me kind of mad. And this isn't really related to the game itself, but more to what they've done with like special editions for the game. Here's the thing. So of course there is some collector's edition for the game. If you buy them early, they'll give you this and that, yada yada, right? Now, for the for the special edition for everyone, you can get. Hold up, let me just show you this one. Stranger. Hold up. There we go. So there. Well, actually, is this correct? Pre-order now. Yeah. So you have the collector's edition. You have the deluxe edition, ultimate edition, and then the standard edition. Yeah. Now, for the collector's edition, you get you get all the all the digital content. You get some physical goodies as well, which is some promotional cards, which are these four. You get this book, then you get this, which is an art book. Which, by the way, I do hope that the art book looks really good. And I don't just mean that again. I don't want the design of the art book to be streamlined. For the love of God, be good. Like actually do some like interesting visual, do some actually interesting visual design with the book. And then you get this Jupitermon figurine. However, they did something kind of that really made me mad, honestly. For the Japanese version only, let me remind you, for the Japanese version only of this, this is Japanese versions only. Okay, you get the Jupitermon figurine, so you get everything else, but but they actually include more stuff than just that. Hold up, you get an acrylic stand, you get a USB. Yeah, you get a USB with the soundtrack of the game. You get a fucking steelbook, which is like fuck. You get a steelbook, which, to be honest, I guess, I mean, if it's just digital, then I guess makes sense why you wouldn't have a steelbook for that. You get everything else, and then you get oh yeah, look at that. That's what I was saying. Like add more interesting designs to the within the book. Hold up. And here's the one that really made me mad. This is the one that actually made me mad, 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 mad. Is this? It's a poster. It's not just like any poster. This isn't even a simple image. It's a really fucking well done poster of Look at this. It looks so good. It. Oh my god! And this is Japanese only. Let me remind you, it's one that uses a mirror. So it's basically it's a very simple effect, but basically you have it's layer it's layered mirrors or layered images. So you have the images on top. So you have a couple images on top, and then you layer the others to give some depth to the image, which is like I'm so mad. I'm so mad that it didn't, and they have them even numbered. They even have them numbered. I'm I would actually. Oh God, I feel so cheated. I wish that I could actually get that. I'm like, I feel like maybe possibly if people do a bit of of a cry for this, they might be able to be like, okay, fine, we'll you can also order this, but it's gonna be separate, which is like fine. But oh my goodness. Well, with that, I think with this like sad rant, I'm gonna with this sad note, I'm gonna end that. Oh God, I feel so cheated now. Honestly, just from that, worst game of the year, fucking assholes, motherfuckers. Oh my God, I big disrespect. I'm gonna end the stream now. Don't buy the don't buy the game. Just for that alone, don't buy the game. Right. So yeah.